Today on Behind the Scenes, Handshake is headed to IBM's Austin office. Their computers were used by NASA engineers in the early space program, and most recently developed Watson.
Hello, my name is Watson.
Watson is a revolutionary technology called cognitive computing that can perform analytics on huge volumes of unstructured data and information across multiple industries and provide precise responses to complicated questions. To showcase its abilities, Watson challenged two top-ranked players on Jeopardy! And won handily.
And a two-day total of 77,147.
Before we head to our live panel of employees to answer your questions about IBM, we wanted to share footage from our recent campus tour with Megan Brennan.
Hi, I'm Megan Brennan, and I'm with IBM University Recruiting. I'm delighted to welcome you to the IBM Austin campus. Today we're going to take a behind-the-scenes look at the life of an early professional in the technical track. And then we'll take some of your live questions. But first, let's meet with some of those bright minds and see some of the innovative spaces and things that IBM is doing. Come with me to the Austin Lab. Hi, it is my honor to introduce you to Dr. Stephanie Charis.
I've been with IBM now for 16 years, and I would say I've had about 11 quite distinctive careers here since I've joined IBM, and I think quite honestly the best is yet to come. I'm not sure that my highlight has been seen yet. I'm a metallurgist by training, and I joined IBM Research depositing thin metallization layers on silicon chips. And now I have responsibility for a portfolio of servers for IBM Cognitive Systems. Totally different than anything I ever thought I would do, and yet so exciting.
Certainly when you were in school, there probably weren't a lot of women in mechanical engineering.
No, that's for sure true. When I was an undergrad, there were 32 of us who graduated my year with a Bachelor of Science degree in mechanical engineering, 2 of which were women. There weren't a lot of us. When I went to graduate school and I was the only female in classes of 300, it started to really resonate with me, right, that it was a challenge, that I felt different. I think coming into IBM has been probably the most comfortable with respect to being a technical female that I've had since I started undergrad. It's a great sense of belonging. I certainly stay at IBM because of the people.
What advice would you give women who are currently studying STEM and they find that they don't have a great deal of support?
Always make sure you have a voice and don't let anyone else decide for you. And I've been very fortunate here at IBM to always feel that my voice mattered and I could find a route to have that voice listened to.
I'm psyched to tell you that we have scored some time with Site Executive Leader Dexter Henderson, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the Austin Lab. Dexter, tell us a little bit about your role as the Site Executive.
So as a Site Executive, my job is to ensure that we have a productive environment, making sure people are having fun, and with the size of this location, make sure everyone is collaborating to come up with new innovative ideas to help IBM as we move forward.
So what do you see for the future? What should early professionals expect to find at IBM, IBM Austin, IBM as a whole?
So first of all, focusing on IBM Austin, what I see is things like cloud, artificial intelligence, blockchain, a lot of research we're doing around AI, the work we're doing with Watson, all that's actually taking place here in Austin. Meg, another great example of the vibe is the new hires that we're receiving on campus. The design studio, which is headquartered here in Austin, is recruiting a lot of new hires. The marketing team is recruiting a lot of new hires. And they get here and they're so excited about what we're doing here from a technology standpoint. They're the ones who are really helping us create this vibe here in Austin. And we are very, very excited.
Just sitting here, I get the vibe.
So really
thank you.
That. Thank you so much.
I'd like to introduce you to HR Site Leader Nick Campagna. And today, Nick, we're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion.
Two of my favorite topics.
Okay. And do you have networking events that kind of facilitate that?
One of the most effective is we have what we call business resource groups. right? And they're traditional kind of diversity organizations. We have a very active LGBT group. We have an extremely active new hire network. Typically, each business resource group picks a focus area. It might be learning and education, it might be recruiting and staffing. So it's extremely important for each IBM to give back to the community, and we leverage the BRGs as one of the key ways to do that.
I have scored one of the hottest tickets in Austin. I'm here at the IBM Austin Lab with Kevin Noka.
This is the Think Lab here in Austin. It's a research lab that we use to use with clients, with students, with our researchers.
Oh, very good.
It's a working lab.
Okay.
We ask this robot to take a look at your shirt and draw a picture of what it saw. So the robot saw the B image on your shirt, recognized it, and then using this overhead camera to sense where its position was, it drew this artistic version of your B.
And what would the practical applications of something like this be, Kevin?
So we're looking at this for in scenarios where people have disabilities that allow the robot to be spoken to and to carry out simple kinds of tasks. Not just drawing, but they could be manipulating or finding things, pathfinding, that kind of thing.
It might have practical applications for people that are blind or within their homes or something of that nature?
Yes. This kind of work happens around the globe. This lab is set up to allow us to link us to all of the other 11 Think Labs around the world. And I'll show you some of the technology we use to link with the rest of the world,
great.
if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
We have 12 labs across the globe. And how do you sync up with them ultimately?
Well, the Think Lab, we have this space that allows us, with this galaxy system, to share content from researchers around the world. We have robots that have cameras and displays that we roll around in this space to allow researchers from labs in China or India or Tokyo to participate in this space with us.
Interesting. And what can you tell me about all of the things up on the ceiling?
So all those sensors allow this system to know where I'm at with this device and to be able to manipulate the images on this galaxy system. So we've set up a lab within the lab here to focus on bringing technology like sensors and analytics to the process of aging. So maybe let's go over and take a look at that lab.
Oh, great. Thank you.
So what we've done in this space is we've censored up everything. All of the chairs, all of the appliances, the space itself. The idea here is to establish the patterns that an elder person has as part of their daily life. When they get up, when they feed the cat, when they open the refrigerator. And then if we detect anomalies in those patterns, they can intervene. So we can develop techniques that allow those people to stay in their homes longer, stay more safely in their homes, and then optimize the way that they interact with their network. So a lot of the work that we're doing here is trying to understand the linkage between the physical and the emotional.
Does that mean that you need people who not only have backgrounds in computer science, but in psychology, and yours is in philosophy?
It's changed a lot. The talent that we're looking for now has a lot of the behavioral sciences represented. Lots of opportunities to link things like design and development, right? So programming.
That's amazing. Well, it's been a real pleasure.
It's been my pleasure. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Hi, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to cognitive designer and developer, Lawrence Humphrey. So you've been with IBM since January, technically, but you did an internship before?
I did. So I've been here, like you said, since January, and I did the internship January 2016 through March 2016. So a little over a year, if you were to sum that all up.
Right. Take us through a day in the life of.
I am an early bird. I always kind of knew it, and I wake up, and strive to get into the office at 8, sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later. Usually the office is pretty dead around then, which is one of the things I like the most, is I can hear myself think and I can turn off all the lights. Like I very much fit that developer stereotype, but the office starts to fill in around 9, which is when the rest of my team gets here. After we do our stand-up and we get aligned over what should be done for the day, I just go lock myself away for a couple hours, make a lot of headway on the work that needs to be done until lunch, where I often meet up with a lot of my friends. I come back and I actually sit on the couch. There's a dark section of the 8th floor that has a couch, and it's in the central area where a lot of my friends are. And sometimes we'll get tired of doing work, we'll take our headphones out and chat a little bit and before going back to work.
So when you collaborate then, do you always have meetings, or do you just kind of come together as a group?
It'll often happen, we'll hop on Slack and say, hey, can I run something by you? Or hey, can we sync up really quick?
But you have some freedom to kind of work wherever you want within the lab itself? Or?
I think freedom is a huge word and a huge privilege that I exercise on my team, yes. I feel most productive in a coffee shop, so if I'm really trying to put my head down and I have a lot of work, I'll work at the coffee shop.
Do you feel like you've learned a lot more about design or different kinds of things about design since you've been here?
Immensely, yes. I didn't have a design background. I did computer science, right? My internship was my first formal enterprise introduction to what design looks like. In that time since, and especially working with a design executive, you can't help but to just sit and absorb. I'm steeped in that culture right now, and I'm eating it up. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. So do you feel like you have opportunities now, growth opportunities, and are they in a couple of different directions even?
Oh yeah, so as a designer in cognitive, obviously one of IBM's huge pillars is cognitive and cloud. So these are things that I'm learning that I could take to any product team, anywhere within the business, frankly, and thrive there. I have no doubt about it in my mind that the things that I'm learning could benefit any corner of the company in some way.
You're actually something of an inspiration, just your positive attitude. And I think that this will lend itself well to talking to other early professionals, people who are looking at possibly joining IBM. So we're going to answer some of their questions, and we'll go about doing that. Again, bring that positive attitude and
Awesome.
that sense of career growth. So
Well, it certainly means a lot, so that's the goal.
Good. Thank you. Hi, this is Megan coming to you live from IBM in Austin. I have with me today a team of early professionals, and we're excited to answer your questions about IBM. So please be sure to submit your questions in the chat box of the live Handshake chat. Because of Handshake, we have students from over 80 schools tuning in today. So that's pretty impressive. Some of them just calling out California College of the Arts, Spelman, University of Arizona, DePaul, and, well, if I do the math, maybe 76 or so more. We're going to share our best insights and tips on preparing for and succeeding in the technical field, just in general, and more particularly here at IBM. So let's get started by introducing our panel. Ladies first.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm a front-end developer for IBM Cloud.
My name is Jackie. I'm a visual designer here at IBM.
Hi, my name is Skylar. I am an offering manager here for IBM Cloud.
And hi, my name is Ollie. I am a full-stack developer for Watson.
One of the questions that we've had from our writers has been, what is it like here at IBM? What might the day in the life of a designer, a visual designer, be? Jackie, can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, I think being a visual designer, it is really different depending on what team you're on. So I sit on a piece of the business called Global Business Services. So I'm on I'm on the services side of the business versus product. So I do a different type of visual design that's for internal clients and for external clients as well. But for a visual, you are trained in color theory, typography, grids, the typical things that a visual designer is trained in. But visuals here, which I think is very unique to IBM, we tend to think much more from an experience standpoint and how visuals can support that experience, which has been a very interesting way to think about visual design, because I don't think that is the type of visual design that is taught in colleges.
Interesting. Okay. Ali, I understand you're a full stack developer. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means? What is full stack?
Sure. So a full stack developer writes code for the client side, but also for the server side. So if you're a full stack developer, you make websites, and there's the way it looks to the user, but then there's also the logic in the back end. There's the database. There's business logic. So if you have actions that are completed by the user, you need to change values in the database to just make it all work. So a full stack developer tries to do both.
One of the questions we've received from South Carolina is what most surprised you about IBM when first starting? Anyone care to field that question?
Yeah, sure, I'll answer that question. So for me, one of the things that coming in first and foremost as an intern out of my freshman year in college, one of the things that you kind of run into is the belief that you have to have all the answers the minute you get here. And over time, I kind of learned the culture is that everybody's really open to educating you and helping you. You just have to be open to asking them for help. So when I first got here, I felt like I didn't have any idea what was going on. There's acronyms being thrown all over the place, and a bunch of language that you're probably not going to understand for like 3 months when you get here. But over time, just through being able to interact with my colleagues and being able to just open up and actually admit that you need help with something was the biggest thing that I kind of learned and took away when I first got to IBM.
Interesting. So what would you say IBM's approach to failure is? This is another question that someone is asking. I think it's important for people to feel comfortable that they can take some risks. What can you tell us about that, Becca?
I think their approach to failure, and not necessarily failure, just not being able to get something done. So I've definitely, being new, it'd take me like a full day that would take my coworker something an hour to do, because I'm new. I'm going through a bunch of all of IBM cloud code, and like it's totally brand new to me, and he's done it for 2 years. And so just asking for help, it's more like, it's not a failure, it's just being able to know when to ask for help and asking for an extension, and people are okay to give it.
Right. So do you feel that there are also not only learning opportunities but growth opportunities here at IBM? That's one of the questions we've received.
Absolutely. Everyone's ready to, if you want to move to a different division in IBM. I came in as a front-end developer, and I know that eventually I want to get into the design world. I know that my manager knows that, and that he wants to help me with that. So there's definitely ways to go into different areas within IBM.
That's good. That's wonderful. One of the questions we have here is, do people work by projects, teams, or departments?
I think that's really dependent on your manager's working style and how that they set up your teams. I've been on projects where it is strictly project-based, and then on other, we've reorged a couple times where we then reset up our team to not be by projects, but instead be by, we have one design lead, we have one UX designer, a researcher, a Fed, front-end developer, and a visual designer, so that we made sure we were multidisciplinary whenever we tackled projects. So I think it's I don't know how.
Yeah, so
my
team is basically all front-end developers, but for different parts of projects, and then we work closely with design teams. And then our squads, which is a term we use at IBM, it's just a smaller unit, is made up with like designers and different offering managers too. So it really just depends on the type of team you're in and the type of managers you have.
Do you complete a project and then move on to another project, or do you find that there is a natural beginning, middle, and end, or it's continuous?
It's continuous, really. It's depending on the sprint.
Interesting. And a sprint, what is?
Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So a sprint is essentially, if you can picture the life cycle of a product, or an offering rather, So we spend a lot of time actually designing the experience and actually being able to validate that through user research and different things like that. But the sprint is actually the action items that you take to get something out the door and into the hands of the user. So for instance, with the IBM Cloud, we had a sprint with regards to a release around a specific tile on the console itself. And a lot of things go into that. You know, you have to figure out what people you have to contact to get the tile on the platform first and foremost. You have to figure out like what's going to do when you actually click on it and things. There's a whole bunch of things that go into actually releasing something, but the sprint itself is that period in time where you have to actually stop with all the planning and actually get things done. So on design side, you can speak to that more, but on the design side, it's a lot of actually getting prototypes out the door and being able to hand it off to development so that they can create that. And then OMs have to get the marketing, the sales, and everybody like that on the same page so that we can actually deliver an experience to the user.
Very good. And now I understand it's not about running, and yet in some ways it is. What's the hardest part of your job?
For me, as an offering manager, it's kind of funny. The hardest part is simultaneously the most fun part to me, and that's just the level of ambiguity that you have to deal with. So the best way I can kind of paint a picture for what an offering manager actually has to do, think of it as the internal entrepreneur. So if you were running your own business, on a day-to-day basis, your day's probably not going to look the same. You're probably going to have a lot of different moving parts that you have to figure out how to get to work together. So for myself, it's a matter of working with design, working with dev, working with sales, working with marketing, and things of that nature. So the level of ambiguity that you have to deal with regards to the different goals for each team is that's exciting to me because you kind of learn how to take your knowledge and also learn from the other teams as well and be able to kind of shape a path and a goal that everybody gets to go down together as opposed to just everybody working siloed in their own spaces. The hardest part is being able to unify all the different teams, but that's exciting because you get to actually take advantage of your influence and take advantage of being able to dabble in different spaces and learn about different parts of the company like that.
Interesting. So that may answer one of the other questions we had about the freedom to be creative. How much do you have individual freedom to be creative in your work? Would you say it's the same way for visual design?
In terms of ambiguity, yes, you're working in just as much. But in terms of being creative, I think there's two ways that you can answer that question. As a visual in particular, I know a lot of visuals tend to be nervous about going to a place like IBM that is very corporate and has very strict brand standards and following that visual style guide. I think though we have a visual style guide set in stone by many visual idols like Paul Rand, we do have a lot of freedom to play as a creative individual. But in terms of design as a practice, you also have a lot of creativity using design thinking, which is the methodology of how you practice design, not necessarily the craft itself.
Interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about design thinking as a concept?
Yeah, and I think it was touched upon a little bit in that last question. Design thinking seeks to bring different disciplines together to solve a common problem for our user and push out experiences. So instead of working in silos, you have multidisciplinary disciplines, so a UX designer, an offering manager, a visual designer, a front-end developer, all working together to tackle one problem. So you're coming at it from different angles and you're working simultaneously. So it's a way that you think and actually approach a problem.
Interesting.
Right, and to add to that, it's also a user-centric approach to that.
Absolutely.
You're trying to accomplish the solution to that problem via user research around the experience as opposed to a product. So the way that we kind of learned it in this boot camp period that they had for us for onboarding was that if you think of a problem, let's say it was a problem for like a landing page on a website or something, and you immediately think of the word dashboard, you have now kind of bottled in your solution into a dashboard as opposed to thinking of what's the easiest way this person can land on this page as opposed to like boxing it into one type of product. You think of the end-to-end experience and try to solve the pain points along that experience.
Ali, let me ask you a question. How do you think success, or how do you feel success is measured at IBM? If you have to do as much development work as you do, I mean, maybe you don't see things all the way to the end because you're kind of at the initiation of something. How would you say you see success measured, even in the work that you do?
That is a super tough question. Well, you know, I don't think about the success of the whole product necessarily. I hope it succeeds, but I just sort of think about how I can be a good contributor to my team, and what that comes down to is we'll have a sprint, and we'll be told like, you need to get these features done, or well, we'd like you to get these features done, and that means divvying that up among your squad. You have different developers who have different strengths and weaknesses, and it's really about working with your team to get those features made, but not just to sort of match the requirements. I think in school you have these CS projects where, you know, once you pass the tests, you're done. But that's just not the same with enterprise software, because the code that you write today is going to be maintained, and it's going to be built on and changed again. So you need to make sure this is very readable, very maintainable, and as short as possible. So I guess the way I would measure success is I'll finish the feature that I was assigned, and it'll go in for review from one of my teammates. And if one of my teammates only has 20 things for me to change, that's pretty good. You know, it wasn't 40 things.
That's good. Well, so it's a collaborative process.
Absolutely.
And I've heard this concept of MVP, minimum viable product. Do all of you see that in the work that you do?
Yes, and I would challenge it to say that it's more about a minimal delightful experience than a minimal viable product, and that's where the design thinking and the user focus comes through. And the way I would describe that as an MVP, minimum viable product, is if you're thinking about a pizza, it's just one small part of the crust, and you want the cheese and the pepperoni and all that other good stuff in a pizza. If you're about to eat it, you don't just want the crust. So for a minimal delightful experience, you're just going to have a little slice of pizza. Eventually, when you build out the whole product, you'll have a pizza pie, but for the meantime, you'll have just a slice. I don't know if that makes sense, or
right. The way that they also kind of put an image to it was the cupcake, birthday cake, wedding cake.
Yes,
and
yeah.
I guess the idea behind that is that you don't always have to hit a home run when you're about to release something. You're trying to solve the biggest problems first, and then you get to the really innovative stuff once you have that in the hands of the user.
Gotcha. What advice would you give a budding developer who was interested in coming to IBM, or really just interested in software development as a whole? Or a designer? What would someone, what kind of coursework would you recommend, or the kinds of things that you found to be most critical in terms of your success?
I guess I'll try to answer this one. From the developer perspective, if you're a CS student, there's a saying that the two hardest things in CS, cache validation and choosing variable names. And that's still the hardest thing for my team to do. So I would say even in your early CS classes, think about writing clean code that anyone can understand. If you are working in a project with partners, or even in a larger group than that, just try to hold yourself to these standards, because your team will love you if you can write clean, readable code. Yeah.
I agree with that. And also, just in general, don't be scared to take that hard CS class that everyone says is impossible to do. Just do it, and you'll be thankful you did.
From the design side, I am traditionally trained in graphic design, which lends itself to be very visually focused, or at least that's how my university taught that design curriculum. For students in traditional design programs like that, I would recommend taking classes either in business and or in front-end development. So you don't have to know everything about business and you don't need to know everything about front-end development, but you do need to empathize with your coworkers and the level of difficulty it takes for them to do their job, and vice versa. So say you're a front-end developer, maybe take a visual design course and just understand the methodology behind color theory and typography and how all those things interplay, because you will be working with different disciplines on an everyday basis.
You touch upon a question that someone had sent in about the IBM culture. It sounds as if, again, it's kind of collaborative, that you have the opportunity to learn from your coworkers. What would you say is kind of the social cultural element? Do you find that it's awkward being kind of the new man on the team or the new person on the block? And how has that been for you? Anyone care to describe kind of what you feel is the warmth and warm and fuzzy of IBM?
Yeah, so sure. Well, first and foremost, at least here in the Austin studio, Slack is huge. Slack is our instant messaging service, and through that we have a bunch of different channels where we'll just talk about random things. And there's even one called Food Finders Austin, where the people just like announce where there's food in the studio, and everybody swarms to that one location. But aside from that, at least on a few floors in this building in particular, including mine, the floor plan is very open. It's very easy to see other people. You don't feel like you're trapped or anything. So it's very, very open to having people interact with one another. And I think that's kind of the goal with this studio, that the walls move around in here so that you can write on them and stick sticky notes all over the place. And it really just cultivates creativity and collaboration, in my opinion.
Oh, that's good to hear. So we have a lot of people who are interested in not only applying to IBM, but kind of understanding what that process is going to look like. Do any of you care to comment on what you recall your interview process to be?
Well, so I know that the design and the software engineering interview process is completely different. They're separate. They hire differently, actually. So for us devs, I applied online. I'm actually not sure how you did it, but I know that usually from everyone I know, they either applied online or talked to someone at a conference and then just continued from there, like something like Grace Hopper. And then from there, we did a coding challenge usually, and then had one more interview, and then ended up going to the finish line where we were flown out to either Boston, San Francisco, or Atlanta. And that was just everyone in one place with a bunch of IBMers. We got to talk and mingle with so many people. It was great. We had a big dinner, free drinks. That was the best part. But then we all worked together. We actually did a little design project and proposed it to IBMers just to work on a little collaborative thing to get us going. And that was pretty much and then after there, you got your offer or you didn't. So that was our dev process, and you can talk to the design process.
Yeah, it was a little different, but it's very similar. I applied online. I had 2 phone calls prior to my fly down. One phone call was very much structured around what did I technically know about design, and then one was structured around, am I a good cultural fit? How do I think? Process is really big here. And then we had a fly down in which we, very similar, had to work on projects together with different disciplines, achieving user-focused problems. And after that is when you heard whether or not you got the job or not. But for the design interviews, at least back when I applied, they were centralized in Austin. The design headquarters is located in Austin, though we have studios all around the world.
There's another question about kind of how IBM gives back generally and socially and within the community. Have any of you had the opportunity to kind of collaborate outside or with other IBMers within the community? Might be comfortable speaking to that?
So back, I believe it was in October, the Austin site actually hosted an organized march of IBM employees for the Pride Parade. So that was very rewarding and a very good experience in my opinion. I think that's something that can often fly over the heads of people in big corporations, being socially conscious and being aware of what's going on in society. So being able to come together and show solidarity for something like that was very cool in my opinion.
Good, good. It's an opportunity to work and kind of spread the message a little bit as well. Bring strength to the community. That's good. How did career fairs help you in your job search?
Well, actually, IBM did not come to my career fair at my school, so I would say none.
Did you learn something when you attended a career fair, or how did you determine that you wanted to pursue IBM?
I think I was always really interested in Watson and IBM design. I loved everything that was happening with that, so I knew I wanted to apply, and I ended up just applying online. So I don't think you need a career fair or need to go to a career fair in order to get a job. I think it is very beneficial because I did receive other offers from going to career fairs that were great, and that's how I got internships. So I definitely think it's great to go. I thought that was funny when that question came up. It's just that they weren't at my career fair. So
one thing I can say in regards to that, I didn't attend a career fair to get the job at IBM, but the advice I could give for students actually attending them that IBM does go to the career fair would be to really ask questions around like what success looks like for a prospective candidate. So if you were to run into a recruiter at the career fair, I'd be asking questions like, what are the qualities you're looking for? What makes a good OM, designer, developer, things like that. Because I know a lot of the times people think that if you have all the knowledge, that's pretty much going to guarantee you a job. But a lot of the times I can speak to the offering management perspective on what constitutes somebody getting an offer. And most of the time it's around whether or not they're influential and if they work well in teams. You know, you can have the best resume when it comes to, the technical skills and things like that, the school you went to, etc. It's all important. But if you can't work in teams as an offering manager, it's going to come back to haunt you and you're not going to be able to get things done in the workplace. So really asking those questions like that, like what will make a successful offering manager, designer, or developer, that's what I think I would take advantage of when you get to speak to recruiters. And really ask those questions about what success looks like in their eyes.
What other tools did you use in your job search process, and how did you determine that IBM or whatever company you would go with was of particular interest? How did you research?
So I actually never attended a career fair in my life, so I also laughed when you asked that question. But I was fortunate enough where a recruiter from IBM did come to my university and give a talk on what the design program was about to my design program. And it was one of the first times I had ever seen a program embrace different types of designers. I have never felt as if I fit into one category of design. Though I'm a visual designer here and I practice visual design, I know user experience design. I coded my website when I was in my undergrad, and I did a lot of research for all of my design programs, or all my projects in my undergrad. So I had dabbled in different areas of design and thought that was really interesting, and a lot of the agencies that I was going to wanted you to focus. And I just didn't feel as a new hire that I wanted to focus on one area so quickly in my career. Maybe one day I will only want to do one thing and touch nothing else. But I feel as right now, as a very young career professional, that I am a sponge and that I want to learn as much as I possibly can and then make decisions from there. And I felt as if IBM was the only employer that I had found that really embraced that, and that was really exciting to me. So I found out through that panel, and that is what attracted me here.
Interesting. So that leads into another question about how important you feel continuing education is, and how do you keep up with your skills?
So from my knowledge, IBM actually offers, I believe it's called the Assisted Academic Learning Program. And what that means is that they'll actually fund a percentage of your degree, maybe even the full degree, if you do wish to go back for a graduate degree that pertains to your job. And that's something I plan on doing. You know, I'm only 4 months into my job here at IBM, and I graduated in May of this year. So I still have at least another year or so before I qualify for these graduate programs. But that's something I think I'd like to be able to participate in, because it's of the utmost importance. You know, like I said earlier, being able to have empathy for the different disciplines and being able to actually have that deeper understanding is important. It's something that you're going to be able to move up and succeed with if you're able to do that. So that's something that I think IBM does a good job with, and that they kind of encourage.
Yeah, and adding off of that, they do that, something I also want to do. And for us front-end developers, we have weekly Feducations. So it's just something that's about an hour long each week that just teaches us a new skill. They'll have speakers come in and just keeps our skills fresh, and any new technologies or new skills, just giving us experience to it.
I was just going to add to that. I think one thing I've noticed here is I've not seen an IBMer who doesn't possess that quality of wanting to continuously learn. I think it's in our IBM nature too, and there has not been one day where I've come to work where I go home and have not learned something at the end of the day. And I think just the culture of what we do, the nature of our work, and how we work, we are constantly learning, even through that, which is exciting. So there's definitely room to grow in every possible way.
Right. Well, so that actually kind of complements a question here with respect to career opportunities. Do you have a sense that you have a career path, and do you need your manager or mentors to kind of help you focus on that, or do you feel it's something you're able to navigate?
I think Jackie answered it perfectly. Like right now, I'm just a sponge and want to learn it all, and I haven't picked a career path right now, but I just want to get experience in like this, that, back end, front end, maybe even design, and then eventually I will pick a career path.
I think for a developer, within IBM, there's the concept of which band you're in. You start off as a band 6, I think, and then you try to prove yourself and go up, and you get paid more as you go up, and you get more responsibilities as you go up in the bands. But as a developer, I sort of imagine myself as a junior developer now, and I want to grow and learn more about different technologies, and to be more of an independent developer as well, so I don't have to ask so many questions, and so I can, basically I want to become the senior developer helping the junior developers. So that's how I think of advancing in my career at the moment.
And going off that, you brought up a really interesting point of something I found rather unique to IBM, specifically within the design program, and I'm curious if it's the same in the development program as well. There's 2 different tracks that you can go down. One is to continuously move up in your bands and become a manager and lead teams if you possess more of those leadership qualities. And then for a lot of designers who don't want to ever lead, they just want to make for their whole career, there's that opportunity for you to move up and become what is it called a distinguished designer, where you're an expert in your discipline. And that I think is really unique as well. I have no idea what I want to do yet, but I figure that out every day. And I have great mentors here to help me figure that out.
Well, that's very good to hear. I know IBM has a strong kind of mentorship program and coaching, and we try to pair you with as many people as possible to guide you where you might need to. So one of the questions here is about networking. How do you network within and without IBM? I mean, outside of IBM? Do you continue to do things like LinkedIn, and are those things important to you?
I have a quick answer to this, just a partial answer, which is as soon as I got IBM Watson on my resume, I started getting so many messages on LinkedIn like, "Hi, I'm a recruiter from this agency. I have a great job opportunity for you." And I just keep telling them, like, "Dude, I've been here for like a month. I'm gonna stay, at least for now." So in terms of that, I don't know, even just having such a reputable company as IBM on my resume, it means that I don't feel the need to network so much. So I kind of just see it as like making friends with similar interests.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. And I think aside from simply professionally networking, a lot of people fail to understand that networking is a two-way street. So it's not only what can this person provide for me, it's what can I provide for them. And within IBM, that's something that you kind of have to learn. When I was first year as an intern, it was something that I kind of figured out really fast when people just ignore your emails as an intern. But if you're able to communicate the value in the work that you're actually doing and prove that this person's going to be able to enhance that value as well, then 9 times out of 10, they'll be willing to help you and help you grow in that regard.
That's, again, very good to hear. What kind of tools do you use in your work? Now, I know you have very different kinds of jobs. So from a development perspective, are there certain tools or languages that are specific to your work that, again, someone should be fairly proficient in or plan to be proficient in?
There are so many
Yeah.
in web development. My team, we have Node.js in the back end. We have React.js for the front end.
Same.
It's pretty much that. But like within that, there are so many other concepts to learn. It's just, I shouldn't even go down that rabbit hole. But the new one that I only learned about since starting work here is like Zen Hub boards and task management. At least for my team, we just have a whole wall of tasks that some of them belong to just you, some of them belong to your whole squad, and then some of them belong to the whole product. And I think it's one person's job to see all of the tasks for the whole product, which to me seems totally overwhelming, but someone's got to do it, right? So, yeah.
So do you find it's very different for you, Jackie?
I definitely do not touch React on a day-to-day basis, but we do use similar product management tools, either GitHub or Trello. You should be familiar with understanding or being willing to learn how to navigate a project management tool. On a day-to-day basis, I use the Adobe Creative Suite pretty heavily and Sketch. And recently, I've been introduced in how to integrate Sketch into InVision to create prototypes for our clients. So what we're delivering feels real before we actually put it into code. That's a really great way to test prototypes with clients as well. So if you're not familiar with InVision, I'd recommend that. That's pretty much what I use.
And Skylar, do you do a lot of whiteboarding? How do you approach offering management?
Yeah, so similar to Ali, we do use GitHub, believe it or not, and we have our own little spin on it called AHA. But that's basically to keep all the teams on the same page. You submit issues, and then issues get moved around, whether it's in the backlog or in progress and things like that, and categories like that. But one of my favorite tools that I actually started using last summer was it's called Mural.ly, and it's basically a digital whiteboard, and you get to have a bunch of different templates, whether it's lean startup templates or design thinking templates, and you basically get to collaborate with however many users you want on different design thinking exercises to help you achieve a clearer picture of user needs, user pain points, and things like that. So I think that's one of my favorites because it gives you that digital design thinking experience, and I think that's really valuable for people who don't have a beautiful studio like we have here at Austin. So
or
that was
who
really
work
cool.
remotely, which is big. You find that a lot in IBM is people who aren't in the studio that you're in or who don't work in an office building at all. So it's great for that as well, for remote working.
That's true. You have to collaborate probably with offices all over the United States, if not globally.
Yes.
So Mural is good for that, and gives.
Yeah, for instance, my manager works out of New York. Then I have a teammate in Austria, then one in Cambridge, and then one in New York, or another one in New York. So, yeah, my team's all over the place, and we have to take advantage of these digital tools a lot. So it comes in handy.
We're getting close on time, but I'd like to go around the panel at this point and say, if you could do it all over again, how might you do it differently? Would you make different choices in terms of your education? Or what advice could you give to those who are interested in a career in your area?
If I was to do it all over again, I think I would just have done more like side projects. I always probably just focused just too much on school projects and didn't do just things for fun. I had a couple here and there, but when it came time to make my portfolio, it was pretty weak, and I wish that I had more to present, because I know now there's little things I'm dabbling in now, and I wish I had more experience in little things here and there, and people are like, oh, have you heard of this? And I'm like, no. And so I guess that's just pretty much.
So you think variety is important as an experience?
Just getting in there and actually using the technology or the design tool, whatever it is.
How about you, Jack?
I would go back and tell myself, especially around March of my senior year of college, to not stress about getting a job by graduation. I think there's a ton of pressure that you need to walk out of graduation with a job, and it's just not true. You will get a job, you are smart, you are capable, and it will happen. And sometimes jobs, it's about timing and about what they have available. So it's okay to not have one then, and use that time if you have the availability to either go abroad and take time to travel or take time to do those side projects. I took a month off after graduation and went to Europe by myself, and it was the greatest month ever. And then I dealt with the real world, because working for your whole life is going to always be there, and if you can take a month off from it, you should do that.
Right. We do give vacation benefits.
Yes,
just so
they do. But in terms of like rushing to have a 9-to-5, like you can take a couple weeks off.
Yeah, I agree. And it's been some time since I started working, but it does give you a better kind of a global view, and it makes.
Or just to have time to yourself to really reflect on what you want out of a job, and I don't know. It was a nice break, and I recommend taking one.
Yeah. How about you, Skylar?
For myself, I'd say ask questions. There is no such thing as a dumb question. Really, you just have to get over the fear of thinking that somebody's going to think you're incapable or incompetent because you ask a question. A lot of the times, that person had the same question as you back when they were in your shoes. So I'd definitely say don't be afraid to reach out to people and just ask like simple things if you don't understand it. I mean, the whole concept of growth is being able to take from as much as you possibly can. So being able to get over that fear of not asking the questions is what I'd say. Just ask as many questions as you can.
Very good. And you, Ali?
Well, I'm thinking of the audience here, who are people who are probably going to move for a job pretty soon. So I would say find an apartment that is walking distance to work. No, truly, because I have I don't want to brag about my number of friends. I have quite a few friends who work at the exact floor that I work on, and they live in the exact apartment complex I work in. And sometimes they'll give me a lift home, but really it's kind of pointless because it's so close to work. It's very convenient. And so that's my recommendation. Live very close to work for convenience.
Well, I want to thank you all for being part of the panel today. And I also want to indicate to those of you who have participated, thank you so much. IBM is posting its jobs on Handshake. We have full-time and internship opportunities for you. So watch for them, please, on Handshake and apply. We're a great place to work.